Welcome to U.S. Quidditch Cup 10. You are joining us probably about 4 minutes into UCLA versus Skrewts. UCLA is now up. The score says 30-0. That might change soon, as it could possibly be 40-0, but we will find out. And let you know, Skrewts are coming up. UCLA so far has played a really good defensive game. The Skrewts haven't been able to convert any of the times they've come up on offense. And that is purely because, or mostly because, one, they have very good chasers defending, but they also keep their beaters, when they have control, very close to their hoops, which allows them to keep ledger control the majority of the time. UCLA is very good at coming up and scoring immediately after a goal, so they're good at converting that way while everybody's caught unawares. Also, they're very good on their passing. They're a solid team. They've been around for a long time. Actually was in the World Cup Finals 6 last time it was in Kissimmee. But unfortunately, with the team they have here today, it doesn't look like they'll make it all the way there with the strength of the Southwest region. But, first they just have to make it through the Skrewts, and then we'll see what happens from there. A block from keeper Grant on UCLA, and they are taking it back down the pitch the other way.
He's going to take it coast to coast here and throw it through the hoop. Center tall hoop for 10 points. It's now showing 50-0 in favor of UCLA.
That's a great thing that Grant can do. He has great awareness of what his opportunities are, so if he has a pass available, he'll take it. He's also very good on the long shot, but he knew that mid-size hoop was not available, so what he did was he held on to it, saw that open hoop was open, and put it right through, making good choices for his team. Score is now 50-10 in favor of UCLA.
Good beating here by the Silicon Valley Skrewts has regained them ledger control. But UCLA on the offensive possession with the quaffle. A pass across the middle of the hoops does not succeed, and good beating does give Silicon Valley possession back. Mm-hmm. Silicon Valley Skrewts, one of the oldest community teams in USQ, but certainly in the West. They are the oldest community team. And Silicon Valley Skrewts doing very well here again, as is their custom at this event. Absolutely,
they're very solid each year. I think the first time I saw them play was Western Cup 2, April 2011. And they were a very small team, everybody was just there with t-shirts. They had all their mathematical numbers on the back of their shirts, as a lot of them are, engineers, computer scientists, all that sort of stuff. And they have just grown. It looks like we have a delayed penalty here. Looks like it's going to be called against the Skrewts, as they didn't stop play immediately. Delayed penalties, if you are not aware, in Quidditch, they let the play move on so it doesn't disadvantage the fouled team. So it looks like it's going to be a card on the Silicon Valley Skrewts female beater. She will not have to serve penalty time, as a goal was scored.
Correct. She actually failed to fully dismount before touching her hoops after being beat, as she was re-entering play to chase the bludger, and so it is now 60-10 in favor of UCLA.
So what Tyler Barton on the Silicon Valley Skrewts really needs to do here is he needs to use his bludger to really clear the way for Sam Harris, their keeper, to go up. Passes over to Andrew on the side there. Trying to take it up maybe over there, because UCLA is also very good on point defense.
Yeah, they've got a chaser pretty far up. They're challenging starting around the midfield line, which is somewhat higher than some other teams might challenge. But as you were saying earlier, Julia, very conservative with their bludger play, so they're keeping both armed beaters typically much closer to the hoops, although at this point the bludger control is in favor of Silicon Valley again.
Yeah, there was a botched throw on number 14 who is playing up, and that did lose them bludger control. Harris beat up top, but the goal attempt is stopped by the keeper.
That's his second or third deflection here in the keeper zone that has really changed the possession.
Yeah, Ambrose has a little bit of a different style than Grant. Grant is a little more known for his off his blocks, and they recently lost Zach Luce, who to graduation, who was their number one keeper and blocker with his volleyball background. But these two have definitely picked up the slack lost when they lost Luce. So it looks like number 23 is trying to take it up, find an opening. He's got a pass on the side there, but it wasn't. Well, he actually gets it off. Ambrose passes back with the threat of the bludger, kind of slowing it up a little bit, probably going to wait for Brett to get back. They do have a pass option on the left. It looks like all of them are all of them are seemingly near the midline right now. Passes back to Ambrose, and we are going at it again.
A good pass attempt into the middle, but it is blocked by Silicon Valley Skrewts chaser, and they hand it off to their keeper. One of the keeper zone benefits to being a keeper is that you are immune to physical contact or steal attempts if you are within your own keeper zone.
Absolutely. However, if Sam Harris right now were to go back into his keeper zone, he would not be immune.
Correct, because he has advanced the quaffle out of the keeper zone. So once the team does that, the keeper becomes just like a normal chaser, one of the three players with the white headbands on the field. And so you often will see the keeper running the offense, as you see here, making the decision on what the first pass is.
It looks like they are calling that a turnover, and now they're stopping play as he held onto that ball too long. So it looks like what they were calling was a throw after the beat, which I actually agree with. It was non-natural motion. So he was calling the ball back to the other team. However, in disagreeing with the call, he waited too long, and that allowed the referee to have grounds to card him.
Exactly. So Silicon Valley with a chaser in the box as it is 60-10. UCLA scores immediately, and the chaser's back in. He must tag in before resuming play, but that makes it 70-10 in UCLA's favor.
Absolutely. So Miles, the beater from the Skrewts right now, who has actually been the backbone for this team on defense and offense, really needs to work right now to get bludger control back, or else they probably won't be able to get back into range. Right now they need 30 points to just be able to tie the game with a snitch grab.
Miles was really key in their earlier victories yesterday against, I guess they had one victory against Baylor. But in addition to that, against Minnesota, they led early by 2 goals, as he was very, very effective at offensive beating, where his team was in possession of the quaffle, disrupting the defensive beating of the other team. And now there are no bludgers on the side of Silicon Valley, so UCLA chasers press their defense, but at this point it does not result in a turnover, and Silicon Valley resets.
It was a little interesting that the referees allowed that slow play to be back so far. Normally you should progress the quaffle past the half-point line unless you are being pressed by the other team's defense, which they weren't exactly at that point.
We have seen a lot of delay of game calls this tournament, and there has been a lot of throwing back by UCLA beaters. I think this one's going to actually be called.
It is. However, it is on UCLA, so there is going to be an advantage call there. So it will be a rollback on the beater for UCLA, which did advantage UCLA and allow them to get the ball back.
I believe this is the second or third time that the UCLA beaters have been caught doing that. Previously, the bludger was quickly turned back over, but in this case, it is a blue card for playing afterbeat, with the beater for UCLA going to the penalty box for 1 minute or until the Silicon Valley Skrewts score.
So the quaffle is going to be given back to the Silicon Valley Skrewts for their next attempt to score. He's got one defender in front of him, and he has a pass behind the hoop, so they should be scoring here.
The pass missed.
Oh, and it's blocked in front of the hoop, which is not a goaltending call. If she had put her arm through the hoop, it would have been a good goal. But that was very quick reflexes on the chaser there.
Really quick help to get back, noticing what was going to happen there, attempting to not block the pass but block the shot by the keeper was successful. And now UCLA moving forward, using that quick passing game inside the keeper zone, but missing the shot by the keeper.
A little too low there, bouncing it off of the hoop base.
Silicon Valley Skrewts running it down the pitch
and
scoring through the short hoop.
A much-needed goal for the Silicon Valley Skrewts. They are still down 50. They will need 20 to get back into snitch range.
That's right. So it's 70-20 for UCLA. We're approximately 10 to 12 minutes into this game.
It's interesting. There is a long history of Western teams traveling to the East Coast to play Western teams in elimination games. A fun fact, USC, the University of Southern California, has never lost to a non-West team in a national tournament.
It is unfortunate. There are a couple of early round inter-region matchups this tournament. Bowling Green State University will play Ball State University, both from the new Great Lakes region. As UCLA scores again, it is now 80-20
Getting that lead right back.
UCLA.
I did see that on the schedule. There are a lot of region matchups.
It kind of happens that way on occasion because the pools, you cannot play someone within your region. If you end up, as these two teams did, both finishing third in your pool, then it's a higher probability that you might play someone from your own region. Similarly, if you end up second, a lot of the first round matchups are between teams that finished second in their pool as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seeding, of course, determined by first the place you were in your pool, second the number of losses you had, and third the point differential for all of your games, capped at a maximum for each game.
So a wild shot by the Silicon Valley Skrewts there.
And
looks like we have some discussion.
And we have a quick stoppage here.
However, the snitch is walking onto the pitch, so we are at least at the 17-minute mark in this game.
Yeah, a little bit further along than I had thought. It is currently 80-20 in favor of UCLA.
So you're going to see the Skrewts seeker blocking hard because this is, and every game today is, an elimination game.
That's right. So most seekers will try and defend the snitch in this case. So they'll be using their body to block the opposing seeker from getting close enough to touch the snitch tail. Looks like a quaffle possession being returned to Silicon Valley Skrewts here, which could be a big foul call because it is only 80-20. They are only 3 goals away from making the snitch range, and now it is only 2 goals away. So it is 80-30 for UCLA.
The issue that Silicon Valley is having is that they didn't get off to a lead. They are better in that situation than this. UCLA is great at answering goals. And unfortunately, Silicon Valley needs 2 unanswered to be within range here.
And what's going to make it a little more difficult is that the Silicon Valley does not currently have bludger control with the snitch on the pitch. I expect UCLA to fully use this advantage.
They absolutely will. And it looks like the Silicon Valley Skrewts will and there's a stoppage of play. We've got a down Skroot. We've got a UCLA player kneeling beside, trying to see if she's all right.
So we have a stoppage now for the injury.
We're unsure of the status at this time, but as soon as we have more information, we'll let you know. So it looks like they have EMTs coming over to kind of assess the situation. And at this time, all players are leaving their rooms on the pitch and getting some water for their teams.
Once again, it's 80-30 currently in favor of UCLA over the Silicon Valley Skrewts. We have a stoppage of play here for an injury, and players are getting some water. It is another beautiful day here in Florida. It's sunny and about 70 degrees. Expected to get up to a high of around 80 degrees with low humidity and slight breezes. So really a very, very nice day for Quidditch. It would be a little bit nicer if there was some cloud cover, but of course this is the Sunshine State. And so it looks like the Skrewts player is able to walk off under her own power, which is really good sign.
Looks like that was Liz Barcelos, previously of San Jose State University. We are still unsure of what happened, but it's good to see her walking off on her own.
It does not look like there was anything which was cardable, and so we're going to remount with UCLA in possession. And play is resumed.
So there isn't free bludger behind the Skrewts hoops, which is good as they have just regained bludger control. Once the Seekers are released, we're going to see a lot of bludger play on that Seeker, and Seekers are out.
UCLA Seeker looks like he has a very clear path to the Snitch Runner at this point, as UCLA has gotten back bludger control. The Silicon Valley Skrewts not using their beater to come up, and UCLA preventing defensive seeking by beating Silicon Valley Skrewt Seeker Forrest Stone back to hoops.
It looks like there's going to be a penalty here. So the reason nobody got that snitch grab, even though the tail came off, is because a seeker, has to have complete possession for the entire grab for it to be good. So as the ball was on the ground, it had to be reattached to the snitch. No play was stopped as it was a very clear call, and play resumed. So UCLA now has bludger control. Still stopping the Silicon Valley Skrewts Forrest Stone from getting anywhere near the snitch, actually. The UCLA Seeker actually has a pretty good range, good wingspan, which will be helpful for him. However, being the only one that the snitch is focused on is not going his way.
There's a play stoppage here as there was the quaffle had rolled significantly far off of the hard boundary.
Looks like it's being thrown back to the keeper. Sam Harris has it. Needs to take it up and really needs to get a score here. Score is 80-30, which means they are still 20 points out of snitch range.
And UCLA smartly calling their beaters back for quaffle defense instead of helping their seeker, ensuring that they do not get within snitch range.
Absolutely. That is all they need. They don't need their player to catch the snitch here. However,
the keeper from Silicon Valley drives directly to the hoop closest to him and puts it through. So it is now 80-40 in favor of UCLA, and their beaters are back on the Seeker game.
Sam Harris has really put the team on his back. So it looks like the Silicon Valley Skrewts makes a stop there, which now allows them to get that second unanswered point. We will see Forrest immediately turn and try for a snitch grab. Silicon Valley Skrewts, little known fact, they have a long history of grabbing to go into overtime and then winning in overtime. There's
a good goal by Silicon Valley Skrewts. It is now a 30-point game, and Forrest is going offensively. So both Seekers going for the snitch now, as a grab for Silicon Valley would send it to overtime.
Forrest is a very tricky seeker. It doesn't look like he would be particularly...
and there's
like a grab by UCLA. We have to see if this is going to be
grab.
We have to see if this is going to be called good or not. So the referees are going to converse with the snitch. It looks like we have a UCLA player coming up to check on his seeker. He's on the ground, but it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with him. I think he's just reveling in the moment right now, high-fiving his teammate. Everybody's all smiles, but we do still have to wait and see what will happen. So they're kind of discussing.
An exciting grab as he reached out with both arms and actually pulled it with the one hand, keeping his broom between his legs.
So the things
and falling hard on the ground.
The things that they could be discussing here is whether there were shorts pull, which would nullify the catch, if there was illegal contact with the snitch. So it looks like that was called off.
Because his second arm was impeding the snitch there. So again, the two-armed grab attempt, the second arm was impeding the snitch from going the other direction. So it is called no good, and it is now 80-50, and both seekers are...
And there's a goal from UCLA, putting them back out of snitch range. So we're going to see Forrest blocking again.
It is now 90-50 in favor of UCLA. The UCLA seeker still going very hard after this Snitch Runner. Attempting a sort of a swim move.
I was going to say, it seems like a little bit of a breaststroke.
Yes.
Or a butterfly to try and get around those arms. The UCLA players, or either team really, they want a quick win here because they will have more games throughout the day, and the Silicon Valley roster actually seems a little smaller than the UCLA roster at this time.
Silicon Valley Skrewts do have ledger control back, and that is helping them, although they are holding on here a long period of time as they attempt to score, and that means the UCLA seeker will be back near the snitch.
Luckily, Forrest is actually very good at blocking.
And a turnover and a clear breakaway for the UCLA chaser.
Puts it through the hoop, putting them up by 50. So it is 100-50. Looks like there is going to be a discussion for a possible penalty here.
Once again, it's 100-50 in favor of UCLA. Snitch has been on the pitch for a couple of minutes of game time.
In case anybody is unaware, both of these teams are from California. The Silicon Valley Skrewts are from the Bay Area, and the UCLA team is from Los Angeles, Westwood, to be specific. We do, in this situation, have a college team versus community team, which, has kind of been a debate in the community whether there should be a college community split into separate leagues. However, it seems for now that they are going to remain in the same.
Good goal was called, and so it is 100-50 in favor of UCLA.
Miles having a good presence of mind to...
Excellent beating. However, they need more goals with the Quaffle, and
an
unfortunately...
unattested goal right here for UCLA.
Further turnovers within their offensive keeper zone is killing Silicon Valley right now.
Absolutely. So it's going to be 110-50 now. UCLA, again, pulling up by 60.
Playing Johns Hopkins, slow ball. Playing Duke, slow ball.
So 110-50 in favor of UCLA. Ledger control in favor of the Skrewts, but they had made a comeback of this magnitude once before. I feel it's unlikely they'll be able to do it again. They have to take better care of the Quaffle while in their offensive half, as twice in a row now it's led to uncontested fast break goals for UCLA.
Sam Harris kind of playing it slow just because he has one option here, and he doesn't like his odds against
UCLA keeper playing behind the hoops. This is something we've seen a lot at this tournament because the keeper may put his hand through the hoops. He's now moved just in front, but he may use his hand to block the Quaffle from going entirely through by passing it through the back of the hoop.
So Sam getting through a tackle, getting through another. And putting it through.
Forcing through, and there's a stoppage.
Another delayed penalty call. For anybody who's wondering, I heard that the Maryland team is planning to slow ball all of their opponents the next season.
I'm not sure if that's the best strategy, but it is one that we've seen employed here and at other tournaments lately.
We have, absolutely. So if you see Maryland next season, expect that slow ball. We've got some of the UCLA alum on the sideline heckling their own players. So that is kind of the spirit of the LA teams. They have a big community, but, everything's in good fun.
And so the goal will stand for Silicon Valley Skrewts. They are now back within
50 points.
50 points.
It is 110-60. They still need 2 more unanswered goals, but it is likely that we will see another UCLA goal here in response, as UCLA is very good at that.
UCLA swapping out with a line change here, getting their substitute line in, and the keepers bringing it up the field.
I may be wrong there, as I now notice that Silicon Valley Skrewts actually have bludger control right now. Miles makes a catch, beats the other beater. UCLA now has no beaters in play right now. The third bludger behind the Silicon Valley Skrewts sideline. So what they really need to do is they need to go up and beat all of the chasers, get the possession back.
And that's exactly what they're doing, but they did find an open chaser.
It looks like that might have been an illegal reset.
There was a pass, it looks like off the pitch on the far side.
It technically, actually, I believe was an illegal reset purely because the player that she passed back to was too far away from where she passed.
And now the Skrewts attempting to score. They pass it back behind the hoops to their chaser. And she is beat, and so UCLA regains possession. Number 92 in possession, passing back to his own keeper within the keeper zone, again giving up those immunity benefits, as the Quaffle had already passed outside of the keeper zone.
And it looks like actually the Silicon Valley keeper kind of hanging behind the Quaffle, trying to steal there. A very interesting technique is now they leave Martin Pine, a chaser, in front of the hoops.
I think they're really looking for that same fast break type goal that UCLA has had so much success with here since the Snitch has been back on pitch.
Something that the Silicon Valley Skrewts really needs to do is play better defense, and that UCLA is getting a lot of what I like to call rebounds.
Yes.
The Silicon Valley Skrewts aren't finding the ball on the ground and jumping on that. UCLA has great awareness to where the ball is going to roll after they miss a shot, and they're going after that, and they're capitalizing on that.
And so it is now 120-60 in favor of UCLA, a 60-point lead. And so the Silicon Valley Scroot Seeker Four-Stone defending the Snitch Runner, who has been on pitch now for quite a while. I believe we're probably within the first Snitch handicap, which requires that the Snitch remain within about 1.5 yards of the midfield line on either side. So he is standing pretty much right on the midfield line. Silicon Valley in possession of the Quaffle. Again, working against this UCLA defense, who has been effective.
We've got some cheers from 2 separate pitches, so it seems like 2 games have concluded at this time in this first round. But here we are still in the midst of this UCLA-Silicon Valley game. UCLA has had a lead almost this entire game. Looks like they're calling a turnover for rolling out of the hard boundary here. Calling a UCLA ball. It's good awareness of these players to understand that there are spectators there and that going outside of that line would have been dangerous play. I have seen quite a bit of play outside of the hard boundary.
Yeah, a lot of times it seems like there's one player from either team attempting to recover a ball, and they are both going just off the hard boundary, or in some cases their momentum is carrying them quite a few feet off of the hard boundary. Very well done there by both teams to recognize the situation.
So it looks like Forrest Stone is hanging back a little bit, allowing a little bit of a chance at this UCLA seeker. Unfortunately, he is a smaller seeker, so he's not going to have quite the grab area that the previous seeker did, but I have seen him play. He does go hard. He will try and get it. Trying to hold on to his broom there.
There's been an awful lot of broom pulling by Snitches this weekend.
There has. I have noticed that. They stopped doing it for a while, but have returned back to it as a strategy.
Fairly surprising, actually, to me, because I think they were discouraged at one time from doing that as a tactic, but it's definitely come back in vogue at this tournament. Silicon Valley Skrewts in possession of the quaffle, down by 60 points, 120-60. The Snitch Runner here, again, been on the field now for several minutes. We may be nearing the second handicap, which would limit his use to one arm. But we have not reached that point yet. And Silicon Valley, with bludger control, if they're ever going to get back into this game, this is the kind of possession you would expect them to do it on, with 2 bludgers and the quaffle on the UCLA side of the pitch.
Now, Nicole, the beater for UCLA, she does tend to hold her ball in a vulnerable position, but she kind of has a water polo style to her throw. She doesn't tend to lose it that often. She has good awareness to where the other beaters are, so as to not lose possession of it necessarily.
A pass intercepted there by the keeper for UCLA. Very little movement from the Silicon Valley Chasers behind the hoops, not leaving them with a lot of passing options, and so it's really a struggle for them to gain any advantages on the offensive end.
So looking at the field at the Silicon Valley side, they're kind of spread out, a little bit of disorganization, and that's probably not helping them much, but they do have bludger control here. They just need to communicate to each other.
The Snitch has gone down to one arm, and we have hit the second Snitch handicap, which means we are 28 minutes into this game. It also means that the Snitch Runner has been on the pitch for 10 minutes of game time.
So this one-arm handicap is going to be very advantageous for number 13 on UCLA. It's going to allow his small reach to get around the other side if he's able to let go and use his other arm to try and grab.
That was exactly what we were looking to see there. He went toward the arm, which tried to go under the arm, which was being used. So 2 different strategies used just then by the UCLA seeker. Neither of them successful this time. Good defense there by the Skrewts, as the quaffle did not get scored by UCLA, and now Silicon Valley's bringing it up again, still down 60 points, 120-60.
We're really going to have to see a score here soon from one of these teams, at least. There probably hasn't been a goal in about 5 or so minutes now, which would seem like it's been a slower game, but they've actually both been going at pace. They've just been defending well, missing the shots that they've been trying to make.
The piece that's been most surprising to me is how slow the Skrewts are willing to play here as they're down by 60 points. You'd think they would need to push the tempo here to try and get more opportunities to score, but they are also wary of being caught unawares immediately after a score to get a return score, as their beaters are so pushed forward. It's very possible that if the goal goes through, UCLA will attempt to score it right back in the other direction.
I think that the Skrewts are very confident in Forrest's ability to hold off an opposing seeker.
And it's a
Sam
good
Harris
goal.
puts it through, so they are now down by 50. They really need those 20 unanswered.
And I believe Harris has scored the last 3 or 4 goals for Silicon Valley unassisted, just by himself, assisted a bit by some beating by Miles from an offensive perspective, but from a chaser perspective, no one else really getting involved, just drawing defenders away from the keeper as he drives to the hoops.
So Sam Harris, he hails from Cal Quidditch. Cal Quidditch was once a very prestigious established team. And then they had a lot of their players graduate. The California Dobbies formed from their
UCLA
alum.
quick score through the short hoop, making it again a 60-point gap, 130-70.
The Dobbies formed from the Cal alum, and Sam was kind of the only player left on Cal. And Cal kind of had what I like to call the dark ages, where they were just kind of lost. They were still qualifying for World Cup. However, they were just sort of middle low tier in terms of ability. Sam was the shining star on that team until he finally decided to switch teams. He moved over to the Silicon Valley Skrewts, and now he plays for them as one of their star players.
Cal Quidditch here this weekend had a good upset of the Bosnian Bear Sharks in pool play. And really surprised some folks yesterday.
Absolutely. Everybody from the Western region was extremely surprised, not because they didn't think Cal could do it, but because it was an unexpected win for them. And they were very happily surprised. Everybody is excited for Cal for that win.
Again, play really proceeding at a glacial pace here as Silicon Valley Skrewts currently have 2 bludgers, but their keeper had to give up possession as he was beat, and it is easily taken by the UCLA keeper within his zone. It is still 130-70 in favor of UCLA.
Grant has a good range if you're going to try and shoot it high, if you're going to try and pass it anywhere near those hoops. If there's not traffic, he will probably get it.
UCLA substituting in their seeker, so we have a new seeker in for UCLA, probably a little bit fresher on the legs.
UCLA running behind the hoops, tries to pass, nobody home. Not a reset as it was an attempt on the hoops. So nothing illegal there, no turnover. Jenny Yu coming up for UCLA now.
UCLA getting a rare opportunity there to beat the seeker away for Silicon Valley as they only have 1 bludger. That has been the case for almost the entire time the Snitch has been on pitch.
It looks like the UCLA seeker got poked in the eye, kind of had to take a moment there, killing that opportunity that he had away from Forrest.
And the Silicon Valley Skrewts regained possession within their own keeper zone, still down 60, 130-70. You were mentioning earlier, Julia, about how the winner of this game will have to play more games today. Hopefully games plural, but at least one more game. And this time of this game has gone on now in the 30-plus minute range.
I don't expect that will be so detrimental to these teams because it's been a really slow match. So I can't say that they're using all of their energy unless it's already spent.
It's always tough in Quidditch to have that short turnaround between day 1 and day 2. And, you know, the game's starting at a decent hour, 9 a.m. this morning.
Yep,
here
not
local
too early.
time. Not too terrible. Hopefully most teams did get quite a bit of rest last night. But after 4 potentially very physical games yesterday, these teams coming back for more today. We have a lengthy stoppage here as the referees are conferring on a call, and they are calling the goal no good from Silicon Valley, which will keep the margin at 60 points, 130-70.
It actually looks like it is one. Oh, they called it no good. It looks like they just haven't changed the scoreboard.
No, the far side.
Oh, and we have a grab here. So the play is going to stop, and they're going to talk about this. If they do win, it will put UCLA to 160 points. But again, point differential here does not matter. It is single elimination, so if you win, you win, and the other team is out. That is being called good. Again, this is UCLA versus the Silicon Valley Skrewts. The Silicon Valley Skrewts have just been eliminated. It doesn't look like they're at all angry or upset about what happened. I feel like they knew probably at the beginning of the game when they were down by 60 and couldn't get it back within range what the end product was going to be. But you know, this team, they're fighters. They've been at World Cup since World Cup 5, and they were not going to give up.
Yeah, in the game that they won, they got ahead early against Baylor, and they held possession of 2 bludgers through the entirety of the game while before the Snitch came on pitch. This game was not the case. UCLA taking early bludger control, taking advantage, building a 30, 40, 50-point lead early in the game, maintaining that almost throughout while the Snitch was on pitch, and Silicon Valley just had a short opportunity to tie it and send it to overtime. Other than that, it was UCLA's game. So they will advance to the round of 32.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Julia Thomas.
I'm Chris Beasley.
And we'll see you for the next game.
Guys, we're good.
begin.